So this is our 5th video, I believe. We started off with Hey Joe, and then we did the movable chords, then we did the scales. So maybe this is the 4, I don't know. Don't mind me, I'm doing these quick. But last one we did all the scales in the order that you would see them up and down the neck within one key. So what we do in jazz guitar class is I like warming up in 12 keys. It's a tradition. You know, I feel like a lot of jazz players or musicians in general, if you're like working on stuff, you'll commonly hear, "Hey man, you should learn that in all the keys." So that's kind of how I modeled this my warm up after this. This is how my teacher would start his improv classes when I was in college. He was a saxophonist, so I had to kind of teach myself to get through that. But luckily, you don't have to do that. I kind of worked this out. So hopefully you dig this. This is how we do it in jazz guitar. While the CAGED system is ordered C-A-G-E-D if we stay in one key. If I'm going up fourths, the circle of fourths. So if you remember, let's see, let me bring this up over here. Sorry, hold on a second here. So if you remember, the circle of fourths, or the circle of fifths, goes clockwise, right? These are all fifths. But a lot of times in jazz music, we're going in fourth-like motion, which is why my teacher in college made us do it this way, and I've practiced that way ever since. We'll get more into that when we start learning chord progressions, but for now, let's just, you'll have to trust me on this. So we're going to start in the key of, say if I was starting the key of C, then the next key would be F, B flat, E flat, and so on and so forth, going around the circle of fourths. All right, let's get into it. I wrote this exercise in such a way that we're going to cycle through, yes, we're going to start in 5th position. And we start in the key of C. So that's going to give us G shape, because my first finger is on the 5th fret, then that lowest available C is there with my pinky on the low E string, right? Before we get into that, let's just talk about the motion that's going to happen here on fourths. So we got the way it works out in this case, we're going to do the patterns that start with our pinky. So G shape, which starts with our pinky on the low E string. C shape, or pattern 1, which is going to be the next key, that's going to be F. That starts with our pinky on the A string. So that takes care of those two. And then the next 3 start with our middle finger. Now you might be wondering, Matt, why can't I just go up here to B flat? That is a B flat. If I just, because the guitar is tuned in fourths, right? I'll show you how that kind of looks real quick, because that's kind of cool. So if I were to play fourths just to straight across the neck, so let me delete this here. It would look like this. So let's say this was the 7th fret. That would be C, F, B flat, E flat. But here's the trick. You have to go up 1 fret. All right, let's do this. Come on, baby. There we go. Thank you for your patience. All right, A flat, and then D flat. Because these 2 strings are tuned in a major third. Now that's beyond the scope of what I'm trying to cover here, like intervals and stuff. Maybe we could talk about that in another video. But the idea is these strings are all perfect fourths. We call them fourths for short. Again, perfect fourths and different types of fourths we can talk about on a theory level. But the big idea is you're going to see a lot of this stuff where if every string was tuned in fourths, then it would be just nice and symmetrical. And like violins and cellos and stuff, they're, they only have 4 strings, but they're all, each string is tuned the same distance apart. So you get these like real symmetrical shapes. But for us, it's, my teacher likened it to refraction. It's like, let me see if I can find a picture so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so I was able to find a little figure of refraction. So this is kind of the metaphor my guitar teacher gave me. real quick. I mean, this is not a science class, but the idea is light moves at a different speed in water than it does in air. So it creates this optical illusion that even though we know that's a pencil, it bends it, right? So now that we kind of have the idea of that, that metaphor. So just like here, we were taking fourths. If the strings were tuned in pure fourths, they would be this way, right? So maybe think of it this way, as like as we get to the B string, everything shifts up a fret. So they may not make sense now, but I just want to introduce this idea to you because visualizing the neck will become a lot easier once you kind of get this concept. I remember my teacher showed it to me when I was a freshman at college. So if you're learning this in high school, you are ahead of the curve. Now, kind of getting ahead of myself here. Let's talk about the way this is going to work as we go through the warm-up. So we're starting with the key of C. Let's say this is 7th fret. We go on the key of F. That's the next one in the circle of fourths. Then we go B flat. Now, that would be perfectly logical, but here's the thing. The way we warm up is we start with the lowest available note. So if you have been studying your octaves in these different shapes, you would know that this corresponds to an E shape, right? So you actually have a B flat lower. Let me get my guitar out. So there's your B flat. So that's actually going to be E shape. So going back to this guy. Move that over here. From here, so the first two started with our pinky. Next three are going to be middle finger. So we're going to play B flat there, an E shape. Then we're going to go to an A shape, pattern 2. That's going to give us E flat, right? And then the next one will be A flat, D shape. We'll play through all the scales in a second, but I'm just kind of letting you see how this is constructed for the warm-up. Now the next fourth over, we could put a D flat there, but just like what we ran into with B flat, this is pattern 3. So we got the root there, but you also have a root there and a root there. For sake of clarity, I'm going to change the color, and hopefully you'll see kind of what I'm after here. So we would play D flat there. At this point, everything is repeated, and that's actually a great way. That was why I like warming up this way, is because you get to play all the shapes at least twice. You'll see you'll actually get to play two of those shapes 3 times. So I'm going to go ahead and go through this. D flat. Let's call it G flat. B would be here, but let's move it there. So now we're going through the middle fingers, E, A, and then see if I wanted a third shape, then you got your D and G. And that's going to take care of this round of 12 keys. But the big thing I wanted to start in 5th position is so you could clearly see pinkies and the middle fingers. And then you would do that pattern all over again, just a fret up. There you go, you're in C. So that's all the way around. See, let me see if I can pull up the circle of fifths here. Right monitor, here we go. So, so we started with C, then we just go counterclockwise. C, F, B flat, E flat, A, and then at this point we're here. So we went through 5 keys. Now we do the same pattern again, D flat through C. So D flat. And then D and G finish it off. And then you're back to C. And then, then maybe the next time you warm up, you'll start on C major. But, we'll get there. We'll talk more about that in the next video. I just want to kind of introduce the idea of this warm up and where I'm coming from when I made it up. So if you go to this handout, the idea is there will be a link to this handout in this video so you can read along. I write out everything I'm kind of showing you here. This was kind of, the first iteration of this. So, but it'll, in case you want to have a visual companion, everything's written out there. You have the scale diagrams, the tab, everything to kind of set you up for success. So the next video, I'm just going to go through the actual warm-up itself. So see you over there.